Hi, everybody. Mitch Jackson, Jackson and Wilson, a Southern California law firm. And I am blabbing today along with Ms. Kim Garst on how to deal with internet trolls. Kim, thanks for being with us today.
I'm super excited to be here, Mitch. And I just have to ask a kind of a humorous question. Did you ever think in your life that you would be saying, I am blabbing with so-and-so?
There's something new every day, huh? No. And I heard somebody say that, maybe it was on one of your shows the other day. And it's just funny how the terms blab and Google and troll have become everyday terms. I mean, for that matter. But for those of you that don't know Kim, let me just introduce you. Most of you do, but Kim's a social selling strategist. She's the first lady of Periscope, and I think also the first lady of Blab. She's a best-selling author, speaker, a Forbes top 10 influencers. She loves God, her family. She's a big-time hockey fan. She's out of Tampa, Florida, and she's the author of Will the Real You Please Stand Up, Show Up, Be Authentic, and Prosper in Social Media. So Kim's got a lot of experience with dealing with internet, with dealing with online harassment, trolls and things like that, not necessarily personally, but through contacts and people that follow Kim. And my background as a California trial lawyer, almost 30 years of litigating and trying cases. And Kim, when we were back in New York for Periscope Community Summit in New York, it just broke my heart when I listened to some of the stories from the stage on how people's live streams were just completely shut down because of trolls and because of being harassed, and how people had to actually stop their shows, walk away from their event, and maybe try to come back on later. And I listened to their stories, and the truth of the matter is there is a way to deal with trolls. There is a way with the legal system to deal with civil harassment, online bullying, and things like that. So when I got back to the office, I sat down, put together a blog post, which is at streaminglawyer.com, did a Periscope, which was very well received, and you were a very big supporter of that. And so now what I want to do today is share some of those tips with our audience. This is being recorded, and then bring people in to share their tips, to share their experiences, so that we can all work together as a community. But, I don't know if you were there when Brian Fansler took the microphone and addressed everyone on stage and said, guys, this isn't okay. And it's time we all get together and put a stop to this. And with respect to the women out there that are online streaming who are being harassed, because I really haven't been bothered too much by this, but I know the audience, the feedback I was getting is it had to do a lot with the female streamers. We as men, we need to step up and we need to support our communities and put a stop to it and have a zero tolerance. And so that's kind of the background of today's blab, and one of the reasons I think Kim felt so strongly about jumping on and supporting us today.
Well, this is just another form of bullying. I mean, honestly, and people hide behind their phones or their computers, and they say things that they don't have the courage, honestly, to say to your face in most cases. And the reality is that it is very harmful. Some people just can't handle the negativity. It really can shut them down and impact them for life. I mean, just like bullying. I mean, I know people who've been bullied as children, and it's something that they carry with them their entire life, and that's just not right. It is not right for us to stand by and watch it happen. And I mentioned this even yesterday in one of my blabs, where if you're on a scope where somebody is verbally abusing someone or saying inappropriate things, then it is up to us to rally to that person's defense, and support that person, and try to, you can usually tell if a live streamer is impacted. They pause, or they stutter, or they get this look on their face like, wow, that hurt, or all kinds of things, where in some cases they can't even go on. So, how do you rally to that person's defense and, shut that person down, and then uplift the person that's been impacted? That's what we have to do. Because it is not okay to bully. It is not okay to be that. I mean, I don't even, what do they have, a life? I envision these people as like little green people with funny ears and, I don't know, hair in strange places.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly.
Their basements. I don't know.
You know, it's funny. Just I've stopped trying to figure out why other people do what they do.
Amen.
You know, I've seen everything over the years, but I do have a question for you, because I think I heard earlier this week you were on Periscope or Blab, and you were telling somebody, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you really haven't been the target of too many bad trolling incidents. However, I feel like you really showed an interest in this show. Can you share with our audience, why that's the case?
Well, I have done a lot of interviews on bullying specifically in the social space, and so to me it's similar, where again people feel a sense of safety to bash somebody else. That I have. I don't know. I think personally it's a positive thing in my mind, but it is kind of been a negative thing in some cases. But I am a protector. That is my nature. And so when somebody is, I feel like I'm big enough to, and it's always been my nature, even as a child. I was the one who always took up for, somebody else. And so, it annoys me to think that there are people who are, out there taking smacks at people who can't take it. And so for me, I haven't had a lot of problems with it. I've had the occasional one who pops in with, foul language or, inappropriate comments, but, actually, really negative things. I think sometimes when people first start periscoping, they don't know how to block those people, so they give them more room to say things that they don't need to say, simply because they don't know how to get rid of them. So that's an education piece, but at its root, it's just my nature. I don't like to see somebody put in a position to where they're uncomfortable, or more specifically to the point that it impacts them on a larger scale. If somebody says something to me, I'm a big girl. I got my big girl panties on, but a lot of people can't do that. The negative stuff is harmful, and so that's my reason why I really think as a whole, as a community here on Blab, whether we're here on Blab or whether we're on Periscope or Meerkat or wherever, or even in the social space, we can't just stand by and tolerate that. It's my take.
I do, and I think maybe that's what attracted both of us to doing this particular Blab. One of the reasons that I became a lawyer is because I have zero tolerance on people being bullied, and it gave me the tools to hold other people accountable. And by the way, over in the chat, I just shared a link to a post that we did several years ago, Kim, on bullying, because we get called more often each week about on and offline bullying, primarily with teenagers and parents and school issues, than any other type of case. And so we put together a full turnkey type of resource that allows parents and kids being bullied to basically deal with it the right way. There's a right and a wrong way to deal with bullying. And I'm not going to go through the details here today, but the link's over on the right. And it has to do with teenagers committing suicide because they've been bullied online. And when these high profile cases came out, it hit me hard, not as a lawyer, but as a dad. And so we put these resources together. We don't handle these cases. This isn't about getting business to us. It's about empowering the community to deal with bullies. And one thing that Kim and I are going to do today is we're going to give you some tools so that by the time we're done with today's Blab, hopefully you'll have a better understanding, a better appreciation, a better approach to dealing with recreational trolls and dealing with criminal trolls. And Kim, all of these resources are at streaminglawyer.com. I don't want to spend a lot of time going through the resources because I want people to come on and share their stories and share their tips. But just quickly, if I may, there are two types of bullies. There's recreational bullies, the type of bullies and trolls that Kim referenced. They come in, they use foul language, they try to disrupt your live stream, and then they leave. There's also criminal trolls, trolls that try to harm you as an individual, trolls that try to lead you to committing suicide, trolls that try to shut down your business. So there's two different ways to deal with trolls, whether they're recreational trolls, however, whatever you want to call them, or criminal trolls. And those are the different methods that we've shared at streaminglawyer.com. There are 4 police officers Kim. Hopefully they'll be joining us in a few minutes because we're going to be opening up seats. We're going to be inviting people on to share their experiences, their advice, their thoughts. But I've got 4 police officers, and I don't know if they're here right now. And if they are, you guys sit tight. But we've got Officer Tony Moore. We've got Officer Arlene Castillo. We've got Officer Mike Byers. And then we've got LESM, which is Law Enforcement Social Media. And these are California police officers that are using social to engage the community. And it's awesome what they're doing. And I think they'll give us some good insight on how to deal with this from a criminal's aspect. So if you guys would, this is the time to retweet this out, tell Little Bird, because we're going to dive into the meat of the show. And Kim, let me just quickly go through with respect to recreational trolls like you described who come in and try to disrupt the show. There are some really good ways of dealing with them. Number 1, you can ignore the trolls. Number 2, you can call the trolls out. If you call a troll out, it's normally not best to call out that particular troll. If we have someone here today that for whatever reason, and I'm sure we will, decides they want to troll over in the chat, usually instead of picking on that particular troll, because then you're going to be inciting a dialogue that you don't really want. Maybe you say, you know, Kim, we've got somebody over here that really feels like everything else that we're talking about, what everyone else seems to feel is important that we're talking about, isn't that important to him or her. You know, how does everybody feel about that? Why don't we block them? So let your community step up and shut down that troll. You can also use a moderator, which is really powerful on many live streaming platforms. You can have a third party monitoring what you're doing to block the trolls, to respond back, to get your community involved, to block trolls and things like that. After the show, with respect to recreational trolls, you can actually reach out to the social media platform, to Blab, to Periscope. You can reach out to the internet providers using a template letter that we provided at streaminglawyer.com to put them on notice if they've got somebody that is violating the terms of service agreement. And by placing written notice to the social media platform in a very polite and professional way, you're basically placing them on notice to take action. And a lot of times, guys and gals, when you send an email, when you make a phone call, that doesn't have the same impact as sending a written correspondence, FedEx, UPS, certified mail return receipt, because then you can confirm that they've actually received that particular document. So those are 4 or 5 good ways that I think people can deal with recreational trolls.
And a couple of things I'm just going to tag on to.
Please do.
Identify. You don't want to give life to a troll. I mean, you don't. So why even engage with them? Don't even step up and give them. It's kind of like, you know, when somebody does something horrific for the publicity. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, you know, if you give them life, then you're just validating their behavior. So what I usually do is exactly what you said, where, you know, no trolls welcome here, and I let people know that I'm in Periscope you can see who is being blocked. So you know, I usually just casually, you know, say that something to that effect. No, trolls are not welcome. I hit the block their profile or comment, whatever, and block them. And of course, my community sees that as well. They follow suit. So that's a great way, but don't entertain them. Don't try to engage with them, especially if it's very clear that that's their intent. You know, if it's, you know, if they're making inappropriate comments or, you know, whatever it is, foul language, etc., then just shut them down. Don't, in my opinion, I don't know why you even need to validate their behavior. But the other thing that you said that I loved, Mitch, was the, you know, putting the service provider or the platform on notice in a very official way, instead of just, you know, sending them an email or going to their website and or tweeting them. You know, to spend the time to make it official. When people physically get a piece of mail today, it's not like it was, you know, 20 years ago when you're like, oh, I got mail. Now it's like, I got mail. You know, it's not. It's very true. I mean, honestly, we don't get as much mail. I mean, we still get, you know, the direct sell stuff, but, you know, the majority of the mail that comes into our mailboxes today is looked at more than it ever has been because it's so unusual to physically get mail today. So make it official, even if to the point where, you send it registered or FedEx or something to where, you are saying this is important. You better set up and and pay attention. We talked about recreational trolls and then the people who are doing harm. I've heard some horrible stories on Periscope in particular where, men are, coaching young girls to do inappropriate things. We'll give you more hearts if you'll do this. And, where they had three little girls, 12, 13, 14, doing things that are unspeakable because they were being coached to do so on Periscope. And that's just shameful that is happening. And I know that's probably the tip of the iceberg. So that's the bad side. Honestly, of some, and that's true of all social, there's always bad things happening. There's so many good things too, but the bad side of it is exactly what we're talking about is, trolls are sometimes very harmful. I mean, they're, and if they're giving, they can pose to be, and they can pose and people think they're awesome. Or, if you're young and you don't know any better, that those three little girls gave life to a really bad situation. And it wasn't of their making, but
But if they're minors, they don't even have the legal right to consent to participate in that type of, it's criminal conduct.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kim, but I'm with you. I get all worked up on this stuff.
Yes.
And I noticed Officer Mike Byers is here. Mike, I would like to bring you in on the first open seat in about 5 minutes. If you're still here, just maybe indicate so over on the comments, because I want to get your take on a police officer's approach to dealing with trolls and online harassment. One of the reasons, Kim, it's so important to put these complaints or at least place these entities on notice, and what we pointed out in our blog on bullying in school, is you have to place the principal, the teacher, the school district, the local police department, and the local district attorney's office on written notice using the method I just described. It's a legal issue. It has to do with legal notice, which oftentimes gets lost in a text or an email or a direct message on Twitter. And it really does force everyone to look over everyone else's shoulders and deal with the problem or determine there's not a problem in the first place. Yeah. Okay, and that's why it's so important, you guys. Real quick, let's roll over to criminal trolls. Criminal trolls are destroying people, they're destroying companies, they're destroying lives. And in the legal system, you guys, in addition to everything we just talked about, there are ways to initiate claims and litigation against criminal trolls. I can sue a troll and name that troll as a DOE defendant. I don't need to know the identity of that troll to move forward with a lawsuit. At streaminglawyer.com, Kim, what's really cool is we actually included 2 sample lawsuits. One is by a company up in Northern California that had to do with, I believe, fake Yelp reviews. And so the actual lawsuit, the pleading, in other words, how would you plead something like this in California? What causes of action? It's right there for everyone to look at. I also included a link to actor James Woods' $10 million lawsuit against an internet troll for online defamation. And the bottom line, guys, is you can initiate these claims on your own, or you can get a lawyer involved to help you. Once you file your lawsuit, you can have the judge issue a subpoena, or if you're represented by counsel, you can issue a subpoena to the social media platform, to the internet providers. You can identify who these trolls are. Yeah. And then once that happened, it's game on. Kim, in hockey, that's where you drop the gloves as a lawyer. Yes. and you have some fun. Okay, that's the part I like, Well,
and you just said, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I think people need to know this is that all the people that that retweeted or favorited that particular tweet are now complicit in that activity. So they can actually be included in the lawsuit. So you need to be very cognizant of this when if you see something that is that is defaming somebody else, or that's bullying in some cases, don't get involved, because you could absolutely be held responsible if you share it or anything else. And you think, well, I didn't say it, so why am I? Why can I? But,
Sure.
that's true, right? You have some legal. You could have a legal issue on your hands.
Yeah, I mean, let's just point out, I mean, I am a lawyer, but I'm not, the lawyer of this audience, and I practice in California. Each state's different, Kim, and state and federal jurisdiction is different. So the fact of the matter is most states are enacting or have already enacted cyberbullying, cyber harassment types of laws, and many of the laws already on the books. And by the way, Mike, if you're here, I want to bring you in a second. You can use these prior laws to deal with online cyberbullying and online trolls. It's not always easy, but I think we have to step up, and it is necessary if we're going to fix this problem. One of the important aspects to all of this is evidence. And if you're the victim of the same bully over and over, use screenshot and screen recording software, both that's available and it's free, to record your show so that you then have that to take to court. It's really, really important to have. And you can also use these items that you screenshot or screen video when you send your terms of service violation letter to the social media platform and to the internet providing companies. But all the details, you guys, are at streaminglawyer.com. I repurposed my last blog, so it's on top. What's interesting, Kim, is there are actually trolls going to jail now because of what they've done online. In the UK, there's a 2-year jail sentence now under UK law, and we've shared that law in a link to the Wikipedia site. In the United States, trolls are being fined, they're being shut down. So it's really an interesting scenario, and it's just important for people to understand they don't need to put up with it. They don't need to be victims. What they need to do, and what we need to do as a community, is step up and protect these people. I'm going to open up this seat, you guys, but let's let Officer Mike Beers of California Police Officer join us if Mike's still here. There he is. And let me bring Mike in. And Kim, I don't know if you've met Mike, but I want to introduce you because I love what Mike's doing. Look at this. He's on his mobile.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Is that working?
Yeah.
It's working fantastic, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us today.
You can hear me through the Bluetooth then?
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Okay. Excellent. Well, hey, I'm very humbled to be in both your presences. Kim, obviously a fan, and I take what you teach to the business world and I modify it for law enforcement. And again, extremely humbled. Mitch, you're the man. I'm glad we hooked up. Hey, I have to make this quick because ironically, I have to go down. I'm on my lunch hour, and I got to go down and teach social media class to some more police officers with Tony Moore, and that's why he couldn't get on here. Real quick, I'll let you know. Oh, go ahead.
Mike, real quick, everyone, since Mike is going to run in a few minutes, heart him up, or not high five him, or whatever we call this now.
And thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Yes, absolutely. And tell us what you're doing, Mike, to deal with internet trolls, online cyber harassment, things like that. What can we do?
Okay, so here's the deal. First of all, if anyone gets trolled or harassed, it's law enforcement. And we have a little problem in that we're not we have to allow people to have their First Amendment rights. And so we're not like a private entity or a person where you can just ban them or block them. We have to allow them to speak. And so I actually wrote an article. It's on lawenforcement.social, and it's about something like how to deal with trolls on Periscope. I can't remember exactly what the title is, and I'm not near a laptop, but maybe Mitch or Kim, you can put that link on there if you find it. But yeah, we deal with trolls all the time. And so, like I said, I've only got about a minute, but here's what I'll tell the community that's tuned in. Number one, trolls, simply acknowledge them just briefly that, yes, we have a troll on board. I'd appreciate everybody to block them and then move on. Do not give them any gratification. It's just like, unfortunately, bullies in school, like when we grew up, if you don't give them any attention, they get bored and they move on. That's the bottom line. The other thing is a good thing that I prescribe to, especially for people that are doing this for business. Hey, the more time I spend on a troll is time I spend away from the people that matter. And that's my customers. That's my community. Those are my followers. And so there are laws in California, and here's what's kind of working against the trolls and the haters out there is law enforcement is embracing social media. We recognize the platform that it's on, not only for reaching out to our community and our members, and like I said to Mitch the other day, where else can you get online right now and talk to a police officer like the people are doing right now? People are hearing a police officer talk on a humanizing nature. I'm not talking all government style, monotone voice. No, I'm a human. I'm a person. I'm a man. I'm a father. I'm your brother. I'm your friend. Okay. And so I'm going to help you get through these issues. And that's what the trolls and the haters need to realize is law enforcement's embracing social media. We're getting it, and we are coming after you because we can't stand it either. And I'll tell you what hurts us personally is when we do hear about a young child, a teenager taking their life because of social media. The Megan Meyer Foundation, if you are familiar with it, was the MySpace case. I've talked to Tina Meyer, the pain that she's gone through and turned that around to help save teens' lives. Well, law enforcement is alongside her, and we will come after trolls, and we will come after haters. We will prosecute you. There are laws within the state of California. Mitch and I spoke about the revenge porn law. They got revised within the last year to even make it a little bit tighter. We still have some work to do, but I'll be honest with you. I take great pride and thrill after going after a hater. It's a challenge. I will find you.
Oh, we believe you. We believe you. I mean, look at the enthusiasm Officer Mike is sharing with all of us. I love it. This is what I love about social, guys. It's making the world a better place. It's bringing us together.
Yeah.
The three of us would never have connected before. Hey, Mike, I really appreciate it. Will you be safe out there, bud?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Mike, for everything you said. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Humbled. Take care, guys. And just remember, just ignore them and have a great day.
Thank you.
You too, Mike. Make today a masterpiece, buddy. Bye-bye.
You know, that was awesome, right? Well, you know, awesome. One thing that I would just like to, I know Mike said that law enforcement is very on top of social, and I think that's very true. I think they have seen the advent of, social and all the issues, the bullying in particular, that has been a huge, huge issue. But one thing that I'm not quite sure a lot of law enforcement is up to speed on just yet is the live streaming, apps like Periscope and Meerkat and, now Blab. I think probably Periscope and Meerkat are probably more of a haven for some that are doing things that are inappropriate. But I know when this scenario that I shared with you, when it was reported to law enforcement, they had no frame of reference for what's Periscope? What is this going, so I think there's still a disconnect in some cases where, law enforcement's not quite up to speed on this new avenue in the social space. Where I would just love to, hope that, I'm sure they're going to get it. Don't get me wrong, but I think it is a little bit of an issue.
I think Mike has a follow-up.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to add one last thing to you.
Absolutely.
Whatever you do not Periscope and drink and drive. Are you kidding me?
Right?
Was that unbelievable or what?
Yes. Right.
That was.
Please don't do it.
What Mike's referring to is 3 days ago in Florida, a young girl was driving down the street under the influence, periscoping, obviously under the influence. It was just, I was afraid we were going to watch somebody die live on the internet. Yeah. And Mike, the other thing though is if you're a criminal, like those two knuckleheads up in Sacramento that decided to periscope while they were going to go beat somebody down.
Right.
That I do like to see on Periscope because it makes your job easier.
Yeah.
You guys had the arrest was done by 8 or 9 the next morning, right?
Absolutely. And hey, thank you for providing your own evidence. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And speaking of evidence, one thing I forgot to ask you, Mike, I forgot to ask you, go to streaminglawyer.com and share some additional comments from a police officer's viewpoint, if you wouldn't mind doing so when you have a chance. Basically, from a police officer standpoint, here's some additional things Mitch didn't cover that you guys may want to cover. If you do that for me, okay?
By all means. And, Mitch, we have that we have a Blab coming up Thursday at 8. But I thought I opened this. Kim, you might like this one. I thought I'd open up the second half. It's a law enforcement social media blab, but the second half at about 8:30, I'm trying to find a female to do a piece on female professionals that are harassed online.
Okay.
And I'd like to have a guest come on there because I think that's something that needs to be addressed is the female professional that gets stalked and creeped and all that. Maybe, Kim, you can help me grab somebody for this Thursday. If not, I understand. Yeah. Hey, I'm out of here. I got to go do real police work.
Okay.
And
go arrest the bad guys. Go take care of the bad guys.
That's right. Take care.
See you later. You know what's real quick is I'm bringing Scott in. Kim, Scott's an attorney out of Maryland. Hopefully he'll be able to come in. But there are some comments over in the comments section about what do we mean by trolls? You know, in other words, are we talking about bullies? Are we talking? And I thought we kind of clarified that. Scott, you're not able to come in. Sorry, buddy. But the next question is, guys, is a troll depends kind of on what type of harassment you're being subjected to. There are all types of trolls out there. I'm categorizing them as recreational. I'm categorizing them as criminal. As Officer Mike said, it's a wide spectrum. And as Brian Fanza, who just joined us, shared with our audience at Periscope Community Summit in New York, we also approach this from different perspectives, depending on what hats we wear. In other words, as a lawyer, I approach trolls with one aspect in mind. As a father of two, I have a different type of lack of tolerance for trolls of what they might do to my children. Everyone knows Brian, but let me give him a formal introduction real quick. He's a change evangelist. He talks fast and he tweets faster. He's a millennial speaker, a digital tech marketer, and you can connect with Brian at isocialfans.com. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hi, two of my favorites. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic.
Back at you, man. Back at you. How
Tell us how you dealing with trolls, Brian.
This is interesting. I like to think, I thought I knew what trolls were as a male and as someone that I would like to say that, if you don't have your haters, you're not doing your job. And I think you'll have people that will poke fun. Usually most people, hate what they don't understand or what they're jealous of. And I think that for me was something that I always looked at. Oh, that's a troll. That's something that's annoying. It's a pest. And I know, Mitch, you were there. I'm not sure if you had left, Kim, or you were there as well at the Periscope Summit. But whenever the panel was going on about sexual harassment, about 5 minutes into it, I was tearing up in the front row. I was really fairly emotional in the sense of I was naive. And I was naive on Periscope. And I watch a ton of Periscopes and a lot of content to share and educate people. But I really didn't understand the hate, the disgustingness, and really the pure attacking that existed, especially for females, especially for attractive young females, especially for someone that's a power scopers, as well as people that are maybe different than us. Maybe they're broadcasting from a different location. They have a different ethnicity, a different background. And for me, it went from a troll that was an annoying pest to a disgusting human being that I don't believe deserves not only the time, but I believe we have to put not only parameters in place, but I go on other people's scopes and I block 20 and 30 different people as a viewer because I'm watching Africa Miranda's presentation and she's inspiring young women on better dating practices. And then there's these people that get on there and just are disgusting. So for me, it tore me up. And I've been taking a kind of a new look and a new approach to it, not only as a dad, but as someone that I believe that we're all created equal. And I don't care if freedom of speech or not, nobody deserves to be hated and attacked. I don't care. If you disagree, let's debate, let's disagree. Nobody made you get on my Periscope. It's not broadcasted in your face in your Google Glass that you can't get it out of your face. So for me, I think this is an amazing topic. I know I'm so glad that you guys are addressing it. But ultimately, I think it comes down to we have to rally together and then have a strategy and a plan because 16-year-old, 22-year-old girls are not going to want to get on this platform that we all love so much if they click the button and the first 10 things are comments about their hair, their weight, what they want to do with them. And you're like, really? That's where we're at. And that whole thing with that girl drink driving, right? We can't fix stupid, but I actually do believe we can curb the hate. And I think that's kind of the difference between the two.
Well, they may have the right to say whatever they say, but we have the right not to listen. We don't have to let them impact us, and I think that's where it comes into play. We can make that decision. We can block them. We can support the scoper that is putting themselves out there and encouraging, or has great content to share. I think to speak directly to your point, I've heard so many people say things about, like you said, the weight, the hair, the makeup. A lot of it is, female oriented, or in some cases where, you may have had a previous occupation that is no longer your occupation. Don't let people hate on you around things like that. It's their problem, not yours. Don't take it on. Don't give them any life. I totally agreed with Mike, which I said as well. And as a community, it goes back to I saw somebody say in the comments a minute ago that they're I forgot exactly how it was worded, but it was almost like trolls are okay, just let them be. But no, I think we have to shut that down. By blocking them and more specifically raising up the person that was hated on, giving them some support and letting them know that they're fine. Their hair is okay. Their makeup's fine. It doesn't matter what they weigh. It's what's inside. And that's the key, I think, to all of this is, putting a stop. Don't give these guys or gals, because they're both, I don't think they're just men. I have seen, in fact, we had a gal on our blab yesterday who was a woman. I saw that. So it's not just men. It is that are hating or trolling, whatever word you want to use. I think we just have to shut them down, and I think that's community wide. I think it's an education process as well as just a good human being. That's what we should be, There
are a lot of, Kim, and Brian, there are a lot of different aspects for dealing with the type of trolls we're talking about. And, it's like you could get into the psychological reasons. Why do people behave the way they do? Supporting our community, helping each other, obviously that's huge. That's very, very important. I think we all get that. One of the reasons I wanted to do today's blab was because I just wanted to give people tools to deal with trolls. You guys are both soccer or hockey fans. I want people to be able to drop gloves and throw punches and bring these trolls to their knees. I don't want to analyze them. I don't want to try to figure out why they do the things that they do. I just want to shut them down and knock them out. And what's interesting with what both Brian mentioned and what Officer Mike mentioned is the First Amendment. And coming from a lawyer, let me tell you guys something. The First Amendment does not give trolls the right to say 90% of what they say. And here's the beautiful thing about the approach I'm suggesting. What they're saying over in the comments violates the terms of service agreements with the social media platforms and the internet providers. So even if someone has a First Amendment right to say something hateful, they don't have the right to disrupt, to interfere with, and to harm other people's live streaming broadcasts. They're in violation of the TOS. So when the social media companies placed on notice of that, they have to go out, monitor usernames, monitor IP addresses, using technology that Brian brought up in New York. Brian, maybe you could expand upon that a little bit. I think we're seeing technology out there that's able to track and identify who these idiots are. And it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 2, 3, and 5 years with respect to that. As of today, you guys, and I'll share their handles in my post at streaminglawyer.com, we now have 3 or 4 police officers that you can reach out to on Twitter to get help as of today. That's the power of community right there. Brian, with respect to technology on dealing with trolls, I remember you saying something about that. Was there something specific in mind, or were you talking generally with respect to monitoring trolls?
So I've dealt with this. I have a cybersecurity background. So my background being very focused on really where technology can give us not only the filters and the ability to do some of this stuff, but really for me, it's about giving us the options to decide what and how we want to choose it. And the idea now is you can do a private broadcast or a public broadcast. That's like power on in my house and power off in my house. I don't believe that's an option. I don't think those are. So what I believe is we need to work on filters and customization. I would love to see, there are 5 words that I know of that I've blocked in every forum that I've ever been in control of, that those 5 words should be filtered out and blocked from our platforms. I'm one that cusses on stage. I'm not afraid to be who I am, but there are 5 words that I don't think any of us need to be living in any of these platforms. So starting something like that, filtering that out, giving us a PG-13 button that would allow something like, so this isn't a forum that I ran, that anyone that was joining into a new user's post, if they click the PG-13 button, anybody who had been blocked by a certain percentage of the total user base was not allowed in a PG-13 forum post. And really what that did was it made people actually worry about getting blocked. If everyone knows on the Applebee's account, I had the luxury of working with Applebee's. I took over their account, and unfortunately, someone created 32 different Twitter accounts with just changing the last number so they could spew hate and negativity on the Applebee's feed while I'm taking it over. And to me, that shouldn't be able to be enabled, right? So I think Periscope should even do 2-factor authentication. Make sure that someone that, if they're creating multiple accounts, it has to be a phone number and a Twitter handle. Let's get away from the idea that someone just needs an email address and a Twitter handle. I know that sounds policey, and I'm the last one that wants to be policed. I wear a hat on stage because I like to demonstrate that I believe in change. But I think we need to give us those options. Why would not a PG-13? Me as a dad, my daughter's only 5. 10 years from now, the way she would be periscoping would be clicking that button, because me as a dad still gonna be looking over her shoulder. But I'm going to at least then know that there's some precautions, some swim lanes. And I put the onus on Periscope as much as I do on us, the community. When I heard Brie Olson, because of her background, has to point the camera towards a wall for 5 minutes because people come in and spew disgustingness, it wrecked me, because I love this. I love what we're doing. I think Blab's a little different because I've actually had more trolls on Blab than I have on Periscope. But the trolls go away like this because I offer up the seat. I say, I would love for you. Here it is right here. And the thing about a troll is they want attention. They want you to acknowledge them, but they sure as hell don't want to get on and look you in the eyes. So for me, I invite them on. But on Periscope, my recommendation for now is never mentioning their name. I usually have a 3-strike rule, but I think if you're a female, you probably even break that down to a 1-strike rule. But for me, it's like, hey, that's not what this Blab's about, or this Periscope's about. You guys shape up. They do it again. I'm like, all right, one more time and you're done from my scopes. And that 3rd time they're blocked and I forget about it, because ultimately it's the people that we're providing value to. And it scares me because Applebee's couldn't use the footage that we recorded because of the negativity that was spewed on the screen in the comment section.
Really?
And we weren't able to brag and advertise about the powerful thing that we were able to do with this platform. And so I think swim lanes are important. I think some filters, and I know the technology. And actually 2 people that I reached out that helped me patrol Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which was amazing how much trolls lived in a Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because everyone came in there just, there was people that were going to mothers' houses and ringing their doorbells and telling them that they're bad moms because their kid had drunken and drive, and they were explaining their story on there. And to me, that was just horrifying. But there was technology that actually existed, and we were able to filter out the bad words, filter out a lot of the location-based services, so you can only see the location if you're actually connected with the person. Not everybody should be able to see your location services. If you're a female and you're on Periscope, I don't recommend, unless you're doing it for a strategic reason, clicking that location button. Because if you don't care about people finding you, if you're not at New York City, if you're not in LA doing something good, that location button gives you more ability to be hated on, attacked, or location find than it does of value. And I recommend all females turn that off. And the reason I say females is because it is that thing that, unfortunately, in this culture, it does seem to be people are preying on that younger female. But I believe Periscope, and Periscope knows that I'm aware of this, and I will give them some credit. They reached out after the summit, and they said, Brian, we played your testimonial that you jumped up after the panel. We played that to our staff, and it was something. So now, if you guys notice in Periscope, if you type in a word that is in their thread, it actually pops up and says, are you sure you want to post this word? Which at least it makes trolls not have the excuse to say, I didn't know what I was typing, or it was fat fingers, I messed up. Now it pops up and says, hey, if you want to say, for me, it was like, I typed in, I was like, man, that shit's awesome. It's like, do you want to say shit? And I was like, well, yes, I do. That was part of what I was saying. But I think that's a step. But I think ultimately it starts by filtering out the 5 words, giving a PG-13 button, and let's empower this, because the fact that a 16 or 18-year-old girl can't use the technology that I love to tell her story crushes me. And it brought me to my knees at that event. By far the most interesting takeaway for me from the Periscope Summit that I never expected.
And, you know, and that's why, let me just reset real quick. That's one of the reasons, Brian, why I did that Periscope 2 weeks ago, because I was sitting up on top and it affected me too. And for those of you just joining us, my name is Mitch Jackson. We have Kim Garst here. Brian Fanzo just jumped on. We're talking about different ways to deal with trolls. Earlier, Brian, we talked about dealing with recreational trolls. We shared 4 or 5 different ways to deal with them. And then we rolled over to criminal trolls that are destroying lives, that are destroying companies. And we shared some legal ways to deal with those trolls that actually work really, really well. Everything we're talking about, guys and gals, it takes work. We get that, but I will tell you guys something. I had a family that was being harassed and bullied for years, for 7 years. And finally, one of the bullies took a baseball bat to my client's dog and struck it. It rolled down the slope, hit a tree, broken hip, broken leg. And to make a very long story short, 3 years later, having that idiot on the witness stand, okay, and taking him down in front of a jury and holding him accountable was the best feeling in the world. Even though it took a lot of work, the end result was worth every single second of time. The same thing applies when it comes to dealing with online trolls. Don't put up with them. Deal with them in an intelligent fashion. Get these police officers involved. Get a lawyer in your area involved if it's serious and you're worried about your safety, if you're worried about the sustainability of your business. And real quick, you guys, Brian, along those same lines, and Kim, with your background and having been involved with social for some time, what about some type of crowdsourcing platform or application where all of us can just feed this database, whatever information we have on trolls, and then the social media platforms can tap into it when deciding who can engage and who can come on? Is that something that's possible?
Well, I loved what Brian had to say about the filters. I think that's probably the most positive, immediate approach that could be made by all of these platforms. When you start talking databases, and it's too easy to skirt those things. Let's just set up another username. It takes much more digging to get to who that person is to really block them. So I think the filter application would be the easiest. And to go back to the troll issue across the board, and just something popped into my head that my husband has always said, and we talked about not giving those, not entertaining the comments, not letting them have a voice, shutting them down. And yet so many times I've seen people, even in the and more so not so much in the live streaming apps as in social media across the board, where we engage with those people. We try to fix it. And my husband has always said this, don't wallow with the pigs or you'll both get dirty, but only one of you will like it. That's kind of
I like that.
The thing is that's kind of the mentality of a troll. When you give them life and or hater, because sometimes it's just a pure hater, then one of they're enjoying it, and you're just feeding into that into that need for them to bash. So don't give them that life. And ultimately, I love, going back to what Brian said about the 3 strikes. Sometimes people's comments are immediately identifiable, as a troll. I mean, immediately. And that's usually been my experience. Sometimes, though, people are having a bad day and they're really just a hater. They're not necessarily a troll. They're just a hater. They're having a bad day. They hate themselves. They hate life, and they roll it into your scope. And that's where I think Brian's point about, the 3 strikes, give them a little grace. Sometimes you can turn those people around and not have, maybe they're not truly a troll. Maybe they just need a little loving up. And sometimes you can fix that. But Mitch, I am so excited that I was able to participate, but I am going to have to bail on you and give somebody else a chance to jump into this. Thank you. Great
conversation. I appreciate it. Kim, thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
And we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes, you guys, anyway. But
I wanted to say something about what Kim said, because it's so true, right, about ignoring and about not giving them the limelight. But and this is something probably most people don't know that are watching this, but I have a very aggressive hater that turned a troll right now going on in my life.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
It started in the springtime. I cut off all ties, ejected, blocked, ejected myself from this I won't even call them a person, but I did that in June 2nd, and I let them know that this was my last communication. I can tell you from June 2nd until today, it's continually existed, right? They continually hate. They've even gone after my business, going after opportunities that I have, and sending them messages, telling them not to hire me, and I can tell you, it is hard to ignore. It is really freaking hard. I gave in last week on a Monday because they attacked one of my friends, quote unquote, on behalf of me, and I unblocked them only so that I could see the comments. When I did it, I went down a little dark hole of me, like going back and realizing they had posted 83 times on Facebook over 2 months, all calling me out and doing all these things. But at the end of the day, I didn't do myself any service, and all I was doing is what they wanted. And I just wanted to highlight that ignoring and dealing with those haters in that sense, it sounds so easy, and then when you talk to somebody, they're like, it's not that easy, and I agree. And I have text messages daily from people that are taking screenshots of this person that's doing that to me. And ultimately, I only really get frustrated when they attack friends, family. We've talked about that before, Mitch. But I know it's hard, but it is so true, because when I ejected, when I blocked, and I ignored, my life became better, and they became louder, but became louder in their own fishbowl. Nobody cared. Nobody looks. Nobody still cares. And it really took a lot of work for me. And I can tell you, it's so like, even from a guy from perspective that that might surprise people, it's been something that has really been a daily fight for me to continue to ignore. And so I kudos to everybody that can do it and continually play the bigger card, because it's hard.
And then Brian, I want to welcome Jamie, and then Tech Talk the podcast jumped on. I don't know how much time you have, Brian. We're going to be wrapping this up, guys, in about 10 or 15 minutes anyway. But Brian, if there's anything I can do with regard to cease and desist letters, with respect to throwing a little, legal muscle into the picture, I have found that to be effective, my friend. I mean, it's amazing how once you go lawyer on somebody, it can change the whole dynamic. So you keep that in mind and never worry about reaching out. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Hey, Jamie, you've been very patient. What's going on?
Hey, Howard.
How are you dealing with trolls?
Well, initially I thought it was kind of humorous. When somebody would say, take off your shirt or show me your feet, I just block them and find it hilarious. Or look at their profile picture, which was pretty X-rated. I'm like, okay, they got nothing better to do than. But then it got a little, it kind of threw me off my game a few times, because it became emotional, because they would make comments, and I'm like trying to help and give information and talk with my people. And then they get these comments in and just threw me off. One time I just had to end the Periscope because I was just so thrown off my game. But actually, a few days ago, it became scary because I had my location on, which Brian, great tip on not having the location on. And I made the mistake of leaving it on, and somebody actually wrote my street name in the comment box and said, coming over to my street. I was like, wow, I know they're just trying to freak me out, but it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't do that with me.
My daughter actually. They can't do that with me because I'm in New Zealand, but they do fake accounts. My daughter actually came on camera, and she's only 10.
You guys hear me?
When they made comments about her, that was it for me.
I've lost people.
So here's the thing, Jamie. No, Tech, Jamie, at the beginning of the show, we gave 4 tips to deal with those types of trolls. So if you weren't here at the very beginning, check it out at streaminglawyer.com. They're all shared in more detail, a lot more effectively than what I probably described. But
one thing I actually just wanted to say that I thought was really interesting. So I had a great discussion with Grant Cardone and Tasman at Periscope Summit, and we were talking about trolls. And Grant Cardone said, I have trolls as well. And he said, there's lots of people that call me greedy. And to me, what we have to decide is the difference between someone that is a hater or adds negativity or maybe wants to encourage debate versus what Tasman was dealing with was someone was taking a picture outside of her house, posting it and sending it to her, doing what you were saying, posting your address. That to me is attacking. It goes above and beyond. So I think even as a male, for me, it was like, oh, of course I have haters. I have trolls. People get on there and say, Brian doesn't know what he's talking about, or get a job. What do you that is not what I think.
That's not what we're talking about.
Right. For me, I thought of that in the same bucket until I refreshed and like took a clearer mind of it and said, oh my goodness, that's the spewing of hate and attack is just something that, I mean, it pains me. And so like, Jamie, someone taking your address and posting, like, I mean, for me, that's the kind of stuff that there is nothing but ill will motivated behind that. There is no, right. I mean, the objective is they want to harm, and they're probably just a coward behind a keyboard. But still, I think that's something that just had to be clarified, because when Grant Cardone said that, and Tasman's face just like I mean, literally almost like peeled down, because she's like, if you think called greedy is the same as what I get torn down with in every one of my periscopes, we are on two different planets, and I just want to make sure that was known. And
I wanted to make sure at the beginning, Brian, we were specifically talking about trolls that are trying to harm other people, trolls that are not just making unkind comments, but really, destroying live streams or trying to destroy people and lives. And, we've all seen that in the news recently with respect to high school students being bullied and high school students committing suicide because they're being made fun of how they look, what they weigh, their gender preferences, or whatever it might be. And it's just time for all of us to take a stand as a community. And when people like Jamie are having these types of problems, we all come together and help if we can. If we know who this person is, Jamie, there's a way to deal with those types of people. And you need to get your local police department and local district attorney's office involved. And you can do that and use the template letters that we're sharing at streaminglawyer.com, okay? Because it will help you protect, it'll help you sleep better at night, knowing that you're taking the right type of steps, the right way, where they can't ignore your concerns. And reach out to the police officers who are on, I'll share the links after the show, but Officer Mike and 2 or 3 other officers, these guys they're our friends. They love social, they love what we're doing here, and they want to step up and help us. And so they'll be there for you. Okay? Okay, hey, listen, guys, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, Brian. Well, Brian, thanks for coming on. We're still live. Appreciate all you're doing, buddy. I love the message you're sharing with your community, with my community, with the global community. And, it's interesting is if more people, men and women, would stand up for others and do the right thing. And the G word is different than the C word, okay? And I get that. You get that. That type of comment tells me that we need more education. People need to be made aware of what the real problem is. And and so this is a doable situation. We're going to deal with this, guys, and we're going to make it better. As technology improves, so will our ability to deal with recreational trolls and criminal trolls. So I'm going to sign off right now. If you guys want to reach out to me, you can connect with me on Twitter at Mitch Jackson, at streaminglawyer.com, and otherwise,